Good morning. I call to order the Planning Commission meeting of June 12, 2024 at 9 a.m. We are meeting in the San Mateo County Board chambers as well as remotely via Zoom. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please proceed with roll call.
Commissioner Gupta,
Here.
Commissioner Serrano Juan,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Here.
Chair Ketchum,
Here.
and staff is represented by Monowitz, Kulich. Thank you.
Thank you. Now open public comment for items on the consent agenda or items not on the regular agenda. Madam Clerk, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will first call upon members in chambers, followed by speakers on Zoom. For in-person comments, the speaker slips are located in the ante room. On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature or *9 if you are calling by phone. And we do have one raised hand on Zoom, and this is a reminder that this is for items not on the agenda. So I will first call on Diane Schrader. Oh, their hand just went down. We have no comments for this item.
Okay. We will now close public comment for items not on the regular agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. That was a move by Commissioner Ramirez and a second by Commissioner Gupta. Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano Juan.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will now move on to the regular agenda. Madam Clerk, please introduce item 2.
Owner applicant Debbie Jans, file number PLN 2018-00168, location 12850 Cabrillo Highway in Pescadero, APN 086-142-010, and your project planner is Summer Burlington. Oh, wait 1 second.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair Ketchum and commissioners and county representatives. This project is for the consideration of a coastal development permit, a planned agricultural district permit, an after-the-fact grading permit, architectural review permit, and a mitigated negative declaration to construct a new single-story pre-manufactured affordable housing unit with a detached 2-car carport on a legal 17.4 acre parcel in Pescadero. Specifically, the project includes a 2,750 square foot single-story pre-manufactured affordable housing unit with a 360 square foot detached 2-car carport, conversion of an existing agricultural well for domestic use to serve the new unit, 2 5,000-gallon water tanks, and a new septic system, as well as permit grading. A majority of it has been completed to prepare the building site area. The project parcel is located at 12850 Cabrillo Highway in Pescadero. This parcel is located on the east side of Cabrillo Highway, and the front portion of the parcel is maintained as open pasture area. And the kind of mid section of the parcel includes an existing, 2 existing residences on the property, as well as the proposed project site down at the south end of the southern side of the property. And then towards the rear of the property, the darker green area that you see in the aerial here is an uphill kind of ridgeline area. So there is an existing single family residence and 3-car garage that was constructed on the property in 1991, and a single family affordable housing unit that's existing as well that was constructed in 1993. And then fast forward to the current application, which is for a third single-family residence, the second affordable housing residence for the property. So the site plan shows the location of the proposed project site area relative to existing development. Again, towards kind of the center of the parcel here. The existing residence is at the north end, the top of the site plan here. In the middle section is the existing affordable housing unit. And then at the lower southern side of the property is the proposed affordable housing unit site location with the carport and septic system. There's an existing access road that runs through the property from Cabrillo Highway that will be maintained and utilized for the new development. And there are three existing wells at the rear of the property. One will be maintained. It's identified here as the original well. It will be maintained for use for the two existing residences. The well identified as well A to the south is an agricultural well that will be converted or is proposed to be converted for domestic use for the new unit proposed. And then well B at the northern, on the north side of the three wells is maintained or will be maintained for agricultural use, which agricultural use on the property consists of the open pasture area and keeping of farm animals. There's no intense large scale commercial agricultural operations on the property. So this is the elevations proposed for the unit. It's a single story, relatively low profiled roof line, about 15 feet in maximum height. Colors and materials will be neutral earth tone colors. This is just an image of the floor plan. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath unit that's proposed. And a 360 square foot metal carport, prefab carport, that's proposed to serve as parking for the new unit. And it's approximately under 10 feet in max height. Relative to grading, like I said previously, a majority of the grading has already occurred in preparation of the proposed development. And an additional 10 cubic yards of grading is necessary and proposed to finish out the foundation preparation. Staff has reviewed the project and determined that it conforms with the general plan policies and local coastal program policies that are detailed and discussed further in the staff report. I'll just highlight a few key items related to soil resources. The project site is not considered to be located on prime agricultural soils. This is based off of previous site-specific soil study that was completed at the time of the affordable housing unit that exists on the property back in the 1990s. And it was determined upon review of that site-specific soil study at that time, it was determined by the NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation District for the state. It was determined that the site-specific study supported that the existing affordable housing site was not actually considered prime agricultural soils due to soil characteristics, as well as the gradient being highly erosive. So fast forward to the current project proposal. The project proposal today is located about 300 feet south of the existing affordable housing site. And Sigma Prime Geosciences has reviewed both the past soil survey study from the 1990s and determination by the NRCS, as well as the soil characteristics and site topography of the proposed site today, and has concluded that the soil characteristics and the slope of the area are similar to the affordable housing site that was constructed in the 1990s. And for those reasons, because the soils are still highly erosive and the soil characteristic makeup, that these soils where the proposed project site is located is also not prime agricultural soils. With regards to the housing policies of the local coastal program, the project does further the goals for providing opportunities for affordable housing in the South Coast area. And this project would not exceed the limitations set forth in the LCP for the number of affordable housing sites in the South Coast area. And related to visual quality policies, the project site is located in the Cabrillo Highway State Scenic Corridor. And the next few slides will just show different viewpoints from Cabrillo Highway looking at the project site. If you can find the yellow, the red arrow pointing down, I guess I could have made it a little larger, but if you can find that yellow arrow pointing down on each of the photos, you'll see that's essentially where the project site is located. So again, design of the building being single story, low profile roof, as well as the distance of the project site from Cabrillo Highway. It's over 600 feet from Cabrillo Highway. And existing vegetation that intervenes between the project site and Cabrillo Highway, primarily vegetation along Cabrillo Highway, which you'll see. This is starting from the north side heading south on Cabrillo Highway. But you'll see for most viewpoints along Cabrillo Highway, the project site is screened by existing vegetation. And so these factors will minimize or eliminate viewpoints of the project site from the State Scenic Corridor Highway. Staff has reviewed the project and determined that it conforms with the planned agricultural district zoning standards, including for setbacks and building height. The setback from the nearest property line for the proposed development is that southern side property line at 25 feet, where 20 feet is required. And the staff has also reviewed and determined that the project conforms with the PAD, the Planned Agricultural District criteria, development criteria, including for the general criteria as development is clustered towards the center of the parcel, and the encroachment of development on land which is suitable for agriculture is minimized through this clustering approach, as well as water supply criteria. The project does propose the conversion of the ag well for domestic use to serve the unit, and that has been reviewed by the Environmental Health Services. And so there would be adequate potable water supply for the project scope. As well, there would, with the existing ag well being maintained for agricultural, the lower intensity agricultural uses on the property, it would maintain adequate and sufficient water supplies for agricultural activities on the property. The project does conform to the criteria for the conversion of land suitable for agriculture and other lands. All agriculturally unsuitable lands have been developed or determined to be undevelopable. It minimizes encroachment into the open pasture areas at the front, so it maintains that opportunity for agricultural use. And given the project site location, which will be fully contained on the property site. There's adequate buffering due to the setback requirements between the project area and agricultural uses that are occurring on adjacent properties. And the project would not impair any agricultural viability opportunities. The project does conform with the grading ordinance. The project, as proposing condition, would not have any detrimental or significant adverse effects on the environment. It will comply with safety requirements relative to grading for timing of grading activity, as well as fire suppression requirements during grading activities. And the project is consistent with the general plan. The project was reviewed by the Agricultural Advisory Committee at their May 13th meeting, and the Agricultural Advisory Committee expressed words of support for the project and unanimously recommended approval. Staff completed an initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the project, and one comment letter was received during that public review period from Caltrans, which identified requirements of Caltrans for essentially any impacts to the state highway, including for stormwater runoff, as well as if there's any work that's going to be conducted temporarily or permanently within the right of way, that a Caltrans encroachment permit be secured first. The project does not propose to impact either stormwater runoff at the state drainage system or need an encroachment permit from Caltrans. However, those requirements have been made into conditions of approval in the recommended conditions of approval of attachment A to the staff report. And so to conclude, staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration and approve the coastal development permit, the planned agricultural district permit, the after the fact grading permit, and architectural review permit, county file number PLN 2018-00168, by making the required findings and adopting the conditions of approval in attachment A of the staff report. And that concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions for staff?
I do. Of the grading that was done unpermitted, I assume, was that now has it been inspected?
Not by the county. The applicant does have a geotechnical engineer on board who has documented that grading work. So that's been inspected by the applicant's consultant and put into the plans that are a part of this consideration. And that has been reviewed by our county geotechnical section and conditionally approved.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Yes.
So following on to that, do typically these after the fact gradings, are they penalized? Is the applicant penalized on those?
There's typically after the fact fees that are applied. Yeah, through a fee mechanism.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay, the other couple of questions I have are for the applicant. Is applicant going to make a presentation, or should I go ahead and ask my questions?
I don't know. The applicant did submit a letter that hopefully you all saw before the meeting, and I believe the applicant is here. I don't know if they were intending to make a presentation, but I think would be available for questions.
Okay, okay. So one of my questions is, how long have they owned this property?
my family's owned this probably since 1954. So this is like the last acre of our family heritage.
Okay,
Question.
okay, okay, thank you. And there is that other affordable housing on the property. So is that for family or for
Yeah.
Uh,
it was for my, other stuff.
the existing one? The existing one. Okay, okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Would you like to make a presentation?
She said,
Okay, no, all right, just checking.
any more questions?
Actually, I do, just to continue with trying to understand the grading that was done prior to obtaining a permit. Was there a reason for doing that?
Actually, pasture. Oh, sorry. Pastured poles from like 15 feet. So in order to get everything level, we graded it. So we moved the pasture. Basically, is what we did. So, but we didn't realize what we were doing. I mean, we just flattened everything out, and then they told us it was unknown. So, but it wasn't anything majorly done for the product.
Okay, thank you.
I have one comment. I read your letter. Thank you for submitting that letter.
Thank you.
Correspond.
Thank you for your questions. We will now open public comment for item 2. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have one virtual hand raised on Zoom from Lenny Roberts. Lenny, please accept this request to unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Lenny Roberts speaking for Green Foothills. I would like to support the project as submitted and conditioned. We actually commented and supported the prior affordable housing unit on this property when it was approved several years ago. And I just wanted to explain a little bit about the affordable housing density bonus in the rural areas of the county. LCP policy 3.24 allows up to 30 units in the South Coast, plus an additional 2 increments of 30 more units for what was originally called the Sons and Daughters policy, because farmers and landowners were asking for the ability to build a second unit on their property and not necessarily subdividing for it, but that's also allowed for family members that were also engaged in agricultural activities. So the local coastal plan provided for that, and we are still we haven't even completed the first. We haven't even filled the first 30 units of allowable affordable units in the South Coast. So that's been in place since 1981. This project is a good example of how the Sons and Daughters policy can be, how their family needs can be accommodated. So I recommend that you approve the project as conditioned. Thank you.
With that, Madam Chair, we have no further comment for item 2.
Thank you. We'll now close public comment for item 2 and move on to discussion.
In favor of it, so I will support it.
Do we have a motion?
I'm ready to make the motion. We have the recommendation.
I have it ready if you want. I could.
You
make the
have it?
motion. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I move that the planning commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration and approve the coastal development permit, plan agricultural district permit, after the fact grading permit, and architectural review permit as per county file number PLN 2018-00168 by making the required findings and adopting the conditions of approval in attachment A.
I second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Ramirez and a second by Commissioner Gupta. Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano Juan.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye,
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
thank you. We will now close item 2 and Madam Clerk, please introduce item 3.
Owner, Las Lomitas Elementary School District. Applicant, Woodland School. File number PLN 2000-00352. Location 360 La Cuesta Drive in Portola Valley. APN 077-180-020, and your project planner is Luis Topete.
So good morning, Chair, Commissioners, members of the public. So this item is a consideration of a use permit renewal amendment and fence height exception for the continued operation of a private elementary school, expansion of operating hours to allow 3 existing tents to remain, and the construction of a new fence that would range in height from 5 feet to 6 feet along the perimeter of the property. And the project is located at 360 La Cuesta Drive in the unincorporated Ladera area of San Mateo County. So the request is for a use permit renewal for the continued operation of the Woodland School for an additional term of 10 years. The school will continue to serve a maximum of 325 preschool to 8th grade students. There is no increase in student enrollment that's being proposed, no improvements to the school other than the new fence or changes in use that are being proposed. And a request to extend the school hours has also been received. The school's hours of operation are conditioned to be 8:30 to 3 p.m. For weekdays and 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. for extended care students. And the school has requested to modify their hours of operation to be 7:30 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. for staff arrival and staggered morning drop-off, 8:15 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. for the regular school day and staggered afternoon dismissal and pickup, and 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. for extended care and seasonal athletic programs. And in addition, the applicant is requesting that language be added to condition of approval number 1 that would allow other meetings that occur in the ordinary course of school operations after 6 p.m. on weekdays and from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. during weekend hours, with parking accommodated in the school parking lot. And this would include but not be limited to Board of Trustee meetings, parent association meetings, admission gatherings, and staff trainings. And the applicant is requesting to retain 3 tents that were installed during the COVID-19. 2 tents are 840 square feet in size, and 1 tent is 600 square feet in size. And also a fence height exception to install a new fence that would range in height from 5 feet to 6 feet along the perimeter of the campus is also being requested. And this exception is necessary because the zoning regulations allow only for a 4-foot tall fence in the front yard and street side yard setback. So here's a brief history of this project. So in 1953, the school was constructed at the time of the Ladera subdivision development. On June 1st of 1984, the initial use permit was approved to allow for the use of the property by the Woodland School. Then in July of 1989, a use permit renewal and amendment was approved. And this approval increased the maximum number of student enrollment from 250 to 325 students. And in July of 2013, a use permit renewal, amendments, and grading permit were approved. And this approval included a new building containing 5 classrooms, installation of 4 temporary modular classrooms, a new gymnasium, a new administration building, a new entrance canopy, 2 tensile structures for covered dining areas, gravel roads and driveways for truck access and staff parking, and grading to complete the improvements. And then also in December of 2017, a minor modification to the use permit was approved. And this included a modification to the design of the driveways, parking and ADA improvements to the existing parking lot, and approval to retain the 4 temporary modular classrooms for the term of the school's lease. Then in March 8th of 2024, a letter was received from Woodland School regarding new field access hours for public and their decision to revert back to the design of the new driveway and parking lot improvements as approved by the Planning Commission in 2013, so before the 2017 minor modification approval. And this item was also scheduled for a public hearing on May 8th, but it did not move forward due to litigation and was postponed to the May 22nd meeting. And then due to negotiations between the school and the Ladera Community Association, this item did not move forward at the May 22nd meeting to provide the parties time to agree upon solutions to issues that were being raised by the community. And then on June 10th, a memo was received providing an update on the progress of the negotiations between the school and the LCA. And both parties have agreed to terms in a memorandum of understanding that was voted on by the Ladera community, which passed with a 72% approval from the Ladera households. And the changes are detailed in the supplemental memo that has been provided, and it includes requiring the first administrative review be conducted within 24 months of this use permit renewal, modifying conditions of approval 5A related to parking during minor and major events, and also foregoing the construction of parking lot improvements that were approved in 2013 if the modifications to conditions 5A are approved, and also revisions to the fencing that was proposed. And here's a picture of the tents proposed to remain. Again, two are 840 square feet in size, and one is 600 square feet in size. And here's a picture of the updated fencing proposed per the MOU between the school and the LCA. And the existing fence is shown in blue and the proposed fence is shown in red. And the fence height exception is only needed for the fencing within the 25-foot front setback and the area within the 8-foot street side facing setback along La Cuesta Drive. Again, this is for exceeding the allowed 4-foot, the maximum 4-foot fence height without the exception. So the county has received comments from residents and property owners in the vicinity of the school and also from the Ladera Community Association. And written comments received prior to the notice of the public hearing have been provided as an attachment to the staff report. The comments received after the notice of the public hearing have also been provided, but not as attachments to the staff report. While several topics have been raised, the primary concerns raised are related to the use of the outdoor playing fields, traffic and parking, the 2017 minor modification, drainage, vehicle parking on the grass field, and concerns regarding fire evacuation. So there's been a lot of comments provided regarding the neighborhood's use of the outdoor field areas. And per correspondence with the school district, the current lease allows Woodland School to have exclusive license to use the blacktop and playing field areas during school hours dating back to the 2012 lease. And the school district has an existing policy and application process to make the outdoor playing fields available for the community when the activity does not interfere with the instructional program of the district. And Woodland School provided, again, the letter dated March 8 of 2024, in which they detailed new field access hours for the public. And this letter has been provided as an attachment to the staff report. And regarding traffic, a project referral and copy of written comments received were sent to the Department of Public Works. Upon their review of the information provided, no recommended changes in the conditions of approval were proposed. And regarding the 2017 minor modification, several comments expressed that they didn't believe the request should have been approved as a minor modification, but rather as an amendment to the use permit. That would have required public noticing and public hearing. And as previously noted, the school has agreed to forego the construction of the parking lot approved in 2013 and subsequently amended in 2017, subject to the modifications of condition of approval number 5A being approved. And regarding the drainage, adjacent property owners provided photos showing stormwater runoff running off the property during a storm event that should have been captured by the on-site retention basin. Since then, engineering staff has reviewed additional storm drain documentation that has been provided to the county. They also conducted a final inspection of the bioretention structure, and they signed off on the final civil and drainage inspection. And for comments regarding use of the outdoor grass field as vehicle parking areas have has also been received. And the county does agree that this should not be occurring on a permanent basis, but is acceptable for a non-permanent overflow parking. And a project referral and comments were related to regarding the evacuation plan in case of a fire, were forwarded to the Woodside Fire Protection District. And upon review of the information that they received, the district indicated that they had no comments for the use permit renewal. And they did indicate that they are working on an evacuation plan for both the Portola Valley and Woodside area that will include the unincorporated areas of the county that the district serves. And a more detailed response to these primary issues is found in section C of the staff report, and an assessment of the school's compliance with the current conditions of approval is detailed in section A of the staff report. So the county's general plan designates this property as institutional and the project as described in the application and accompanying materials, and also as condition conforms with the plan's policies, requirements, and the standards of the San Mateo County General Plan with regard to the applicable general plan policies. And the supporting analysis for this is found in section B1 of the staff report. And the project site is in the single family residential district, S104 combining district. And the project was found to comply with the provisions of the single family residential district. And the detailed analysis of this, the project's compliance is found in section B2 of the staff report. And this section has been found to be categorically exempt from review under the California Environmental Quality Act. And this is per CEQA guidelines section 15-01, which is a class 1 exemption for existing facilities. And the key consideration is whether the project involves negligible or no expansion of use and no physical improvements to the Woodland School other than new fencing or changes in use are being proposed. So staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission approve the use permit renewal, amendment, and fence height exception identified as county file number PLN 2000-00352 by adopting the required findings and conditions of approval contained in attachment A, and also include the changes detailed in the supplemental memo to incorporate the items that were agreed upon between the school and the LCA. And I do believe the commissioners and staff also have an additional request that has been made by the applicant to include some additional language to the first condition of approval to be more in agreement with the MOU that was reached between the school and the LCA. So the additional language, I will read it, being requested to be added is meetings which would be limited to no more than 3 times per month and as long as parking is accommodated in the school parking lot. And that's at the end of the last paragraph of condition 1. And then also this use permit also allows for summer camp programs which run in 1-week sessions. At no time will there be more than 125 participants in any one week camp session. So again, staff is recommending approval with these additions incorporated. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions for staff?
None at this time.
Questions?
The question I have is, many modifications have been discussed over these last, I would say, couple of days. And how can we make sure that they are all included in conditions of approval?
So the supplemental memo details, all the changes being made based off the conversations that have been had, the negotiation between the LCA and the school. So in addition to that supplemental memo, it would be the text in red with this form that is in front of you.
Right. And the addendum, the MOU that came out, the text from that, does that get into condition of approval?
It'll be part of the conditions in the letter of determination that was sent out once decisions.
Okay, so that would be as an addendum to that?
No, it would, the action would take place here and we would make those changes and it would just be in a final form in the letter of determination.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak? You have 15 minutes. And am I to understand that you wish to save 5 of those minutes to follow public comment? Is that the plan?
That's correct.
Okay.
Chair Ketchum and members of the Planning Commission, thank you very much for joining us, for being here this morning. My name is Sharon Chang. I'm the board chair at Woodland School and very pleased to be able to join us in this meeting today. And on behalf of the Woodland community, we thank the Planning Commission and county staff, especially Luis, for all of the work that it has taken to get us here today. We also appreciate many of the things that have happened over the last 2 days with the approval of the MOU that has created a lot more overhead for all of you. So thank you very much. We've also worked very closely with the LCA and want to thank Win White, the president, as well as the negotiating team and members of the community that have shared their perspectives with us and helped us understand how we can be better neighbors with the Ladera community. And we are excited to bring forward all of the different items in the MOU that I will talk about in a little bit. We hope our application demonstrates our commitment to the Ladera community and being a good neighbor, as well as meeting the conditions of our use permit. Let me introduce the members of the team that are here today. We have Dr. Warren, our head of school. We have Jennifer Rank with Shepard Mullen, our attorney. We have Ben Huey of Kinley Horn, as well as our transportation management staff, Mr. Jason, Mr. Jesse, Mr. Evely, and Ms. Tanya, as our students call them, and many members of the board, as well as Woodland families who live in Ladera as well, and other supporters. And with that, I'd like to bring up Dr. Warren, and then I will come back and talk about the MOU.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Warren, and I have the honor of being the head of school at Woodland. Thank you for the opportunity to being able to present to you this morning. I'd like to thank the Las Lomitas Elementary School District for their role in this as well, in addition to all of the people that Sharon thanked a bit earlier. I'd like to start with an overview of Woodland. As Luis mentioned earlier, our Ladera school site has been home for Woodland since 1984, and we have been there on a series of short and long-term leases. We currently are in a 25-year lease that started in 2012. And we are home to a preschool through 8th grade community that serves 309 students. Our capacity is at 325. In addition to our academic programs, we also have seasonal athletics, before and after school programming, and a summer camp that runs approximately 6 weeks each summer. We run our programming from 7:30 to 6 p.m. and that is due in large part to the number of dual working families that are a part of the Woodland community and the need for them to have care before and after school. It is also important for us as a school because many of our peer schools offer similar programming for their students. I'm going to start us off with an overview of a Google map to orient us. If you look in the upper left-hand corner where the swimming pool is, that's the Ladera Recreation District adjacent to the campus. Just below that to the right is the field. And directly underneath that field are our campus buildings and the blacktop and play structure areas. Along the right-hand side, running adjacent to the school is La Cuesta, which connects directly to Alpine Road. And if we get a little bit closer to see our campus, this is what has been approved previously. And then the 3 yellow rectangles are the tents that are a part of the request for approval today. Those tents were constructed during COVID-19 and now serve as shade structures for our students in an area of space, an area of the campus that is primarily blacktop. A typical school day at Woodland runs from 7:30 to 6 p.m. From 7:30 to 8:15 is our staggered morning drop-off and when all of our staff arrives. Our school day runs from 8:15 to 3:30, and we intentionally stagger our dismissal to decrease the traffic impact on the community. Each one of our divisions begins dismissal with 15-minute increments. between 3 o'clock and 3:30. And then from 3:30 to 6 p.m. our extended care and seasonal athletics runs. Those extended care programs are a benefit to over 65% of our families. The programs that we offer take place in a period of time after school where we have our classroom spaces, our play areas, blacktop, our gym. All of those spaces are used, and we have supervision for all of our students that are a part of that programming. And it is an invaluable resource for our community. We are a part of the West Bay Athletic League, and that league has opportunities for 4th through 8th grade students to participate in 4 different seasons of sports. Over 70% of our 4th through 8th grade students participate in those. We have practice that occurs 2 days each week, and then games or matches that occur another 2 days each week. And that takes place in our gym and on our field. The current parking and traffic management at Woodland is, I would say, the most significant priority for us as a school community. And this gives a highlight of the areas that we have emphasized, in particular in the last year, based on feedback from the neighbors and community. Every single Woodland family signs all of our traffic and parking requirements as a part of their registration each year. And we have increased our staffing from 2 members to 4 paid employees for our traffic monitoring each day. In the mornings, we have, at mornings and afternoons, we have 1 person who is stationed at our lower crosswalk and who monitors all of our parking, our cars coming into our parking lot, and manages stopping cars during the Los Lomitas bus. When they come, we make sure that all of our cars are stopped for that. They also make sure that all of the families can cross back and forth safely in the crosswalk. We have a second employee who is in our upper crosswalk to make sure that families are making a right turn only out of the Woodland parking lot, and that those right turns stay on out the right side of the street so that there's not an issue with Ladera traffic coming in the opposite direction. And we have 1 traffic member inside our parking lot to make sure that it's efficient and smooth as students are dropped off and picked up. And then we have another traffic monitor at the red curb to make sure that there's no idling on that curb, and that our traffic does not stop Laderans from being able to move through the community. We make sure that our cars are as far to the right as possible so that a second flow lane of traffic can move through there without crossing the double yellow line. I'd like to just highlight a couple of things in this chart that show our commitment to making sure that we are continuously working on improving our traffic management. We have 15% of our families that are carpooling at this point, and depending on the day, we have 4 to 10% of our students being dropped off at the Ladera Shopper and walking up to campus or going down to the Ladera Shopper after school. We have 6% of our families that are using a paid carpooling service, and we rent 10 spaces from the Ladera Recreation District for employee parking each day. You've also received some photos and examples of what our traffic management looks like in terms of signs and attachments. We implemented a shuttle service 2 years ago for our largest event on campus, and we shuttle people from an offsite location onto campus for that event. And this year we moved our second largest event off campus as well. So those are 2 major events that we have relocated or reoriented based on feedback from the community. Again, we are always looking for additional ways that we can minimize the impact that we have on Ladera, and we hope that continued conversations will help us identify more of those. We commissioned Kimley Horn, an outside third-party engineering firm, to observe our parking and traffic management, and they were able to come on campus and review our policies and procedures in action. And the highlighted part of this text reads, after concluding the field observations, Kimley Horn concludes that the traffic during the AM drop-off and PM pickup periods is being managed very well. The school's drop-off and pickup plan is being executed effectively and efficiently, with families' compliance with the rules resulting in minimal traffic issues. And I would like to highlight that we are always endeavoring to improve even more. So we continue to hear feedback from Ladera and adjust and modify as needed. I'm going to quickly move through this the next few slides because Luis did a really wonderful job of identifying the requests that we have before you today. The first one is to modify our hours to make sure that they are inclusive of before care, after care, and our athletics program. The second one is to add language for other meetings that would happen after hours in the evenings and on the weekends. I want to point out that that is no more than 3 meetings in a month, and that is consistent with the MOU that Sharon will speak about briefly. And we have a new condition that we requested in terms of the tents that are there, and then the request around the fencing system. And that new condition around the fence height exception is specifically around student safety and security. Our campus is currently very open and porous on the exterior, and we are trying to make sure that for the least portion of our campus that we are able to have that be able to be safe and secure for our students during school hours, but that we will also be able to have it be open and you provide access for the Ladera community outside of those school hours. The design and the type of fence has been created based on feedback from the Ladera Community Association through walking campus and hearing their feedback. And so we hope that that is consistent with what they are looking for. I'd like to invite Sharon Chang back up to discuss the MOU process.
Since last fall, we've been meeting with members of the Ladera community in terms of a small negotiating team where we could identify the different concerns that the community have, respective communities have, come to a solution, and that resulted in the MOU. Thankfully, we were able to postpone the last 2 meetings and come to you with a confirmed MOU that's been voted on in the neighborhood. That voting concluded Sunday night, which is why we are coming to you with this additional things that Luis has mentioned has already been put into the materials. So this is a review of that. What we did was we took the MOU, we took the things that would be relevant for the CUP and added them here to make them additional use permit requests. One thing to note is every word in the MOU was carefully deliberated and agreed upon. And so that's why you will see some of the specific language requests that we have and why that's so important to us. The first is ensuring that administrative reviews will happen. There are 2 of them naturally in a 10-year period. We would like to front load those to ensure that we are maintaining compliance with the use permit. The second one is around condition 5A that Luis also spoke about. We have refined our parking over on a daily basis, as well as major and minor events. And you can see these listed here in the next 2 slides. We are also requesting that if these are approved, then we will forego our right to construct the previously approved parking lot plans. And that is really important to the community as well as the Woodland School. We believe the field parking, let me rephrase it, say we know the field parking is only temporary and short-term in nature. We also maintain the field and have a responsibility to do so, which ensures that we will make sure that the field is in good condition. We have an updated fence exhibit, and I can walk through it as Dr. Warren had said. This is primarily to ensure that we can secure the least portions of our school, especially when students are present. You can see this more clearly on your screen, but it is utilizing much of a similar design for the wrought iron fencing that you see as all of the schools in the neighborhood in the front of the school, as well as the back by the gym, to ensure that all of the different entrances and exits of the campus can be secured. We also are looking to replace the fencing, the wire fencing along La Cuesta to match the neighbors' hog wire panel fencing in that area. There are some trees in that area, so we have to undergo evaluation to make sure that none of the trees will be harmed along that area. Ladera has been Woodland's home for the last 40 years, and we support the staff recommendations. We are committed to meeting the conditions of approval, and even more importantly, at being a good neighbor to the Ladera community. We request the Planning Commission's approval of the use permit renewal with our desired amendments, especially the late addition of the one that we just shared this morning that you have in front of you that Luis has referenced. And thank you very much. We're here to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions from the commission? No questions. Thank you. So does the property owner, Las Lomitas Elementary School, wish to speak at this time? You have 5 minutes. Would that be enough?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Chair Ketchum and members of the Planning Commission and staff. My name is Heather Hopkins and I serve as the president of the Las Lomitas Elementary School District Board of Trustees, and I'm here speaking on the district's behalf. I wanted to reiterate that the district's request is for the commission to only approve permit conditions that are consistent with the MOU signed between LCA, the Ladera Community Association, and Woodland School. It's particularly important to us that the commission does 3 things: withdraws permission to construct a new parking lot and permits additional parking accommodations, limits summer enrollment to 125 students, and conditions weekend use of the leased areas in accordance with the MOU. In regard to the parties' requests involving new fencing, I also wanted to let you know that prior to any approval, the district will review Woodland's proposal, including the placement of any doors, gates, or other lockable mechanisms. Finally, I think we've all learned that the district and planning department needs to work together with Woodland and the LCA to ensure compliance with the permit. And to that end, we ask the commission to include language in the permit that ensures the planning department will promptly advise the school district about any complaints of non-adherence, so we may address those issues with our tenant. I brought copies of the most recent letter that the district sent this morning after you started this meeting, outlining these requests so you have it in hand for your deliberations. Thank you for your service and your consideration.
Thank you. Questions? No. Okay, do we have, Madam Clerk, do we have a sense of the volume of public comments?
Yes, we have 14 speaker slips, and at this time we have 2 hands raised on Zoom, but I would like to ask speakers on Zoom to please raise your hand if you are interested in speaking for item 3. So we have a total of 22 comments at this time in the queue.
Well, I will propose 3 minutes, 3-minute limit for public comment. And we can open that now. Madam Clerk.
I will first call on the Ladera Community Association who requested 10 minutes.
Yes, that was appropriate.
Morning. I'm current president of the association, also a longtime Ladera resident for the last 20 years. I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for allowing me to share the views of their community. And I appreciate the additional time it's been taken. If you Google 1947 site plan for Ladera, we'll bring up the original plan for the Peninsula Housing Authority. It was originally a cooperative housing development, formed the basis of Ladera today. Actually, it looks not too different from what the picture that Jennifer showed of LDB. And when you look at the map, what is readily apparent is that the community is built around the neighborhood school. Originally called Ladera School, is the heart of Ladera. It is surrounded by neighborhood homes and offers the only flat green recreational open space within walking distance of the homes in our community. In 1979, the school closed due to declining enrollment. When it did, Ladera children were bused 30 minutes each way to the other LESD schools. 40 years later, this same arrangement persists. Woodland School took over the Ladera School property not long afterwards, which we saw in 1984. Hosting a commuter school in our community that was never intended to be a commuter school comes at a cost. Increased traffic and parking issues being most evident, as we've seen the emphasis here already. However, the trade-off of having a maintained green space and play structures for our community, as well as additional revenue to fund our school district and access to the Woodland Gym, has been, for the most part, an acceptable trade-off. This changed, though, in 2017, when Woodland amended its lease with the school district and made modifications to its permit that restricted access to the public from the licensed area. And I appreciate you outlining what happened in 2017, but there was one big change that did also occur. It changed the definition of hours of access from school hours to operating hours, which then restricted residents' access to the licensed areas of the school. In addition, structures that were supposed to have been temporary were made permanent, despite being on licensed, non-leased land. What made this worse was this was done outside of the public stop. And it wasn't until last year when Woodland started asserting its access rights and began the process of renewing its permit that community members realized the agreed to arrangements of the last 40 years were no longer in place. What had been an acceptable trade-off was no longer a fair trade, instead weighed heavily in Woodland's favor. The realization of what occurred in 2017 caused considerable distress for the community. Despite none of the current school board or this commission being involved in these decisions, it brought into question the fundamental trust we placed in our school board and our county officials. The decisions made were written into contracts and granted permits without ever notifying the community which they most impacted. In the fall of last year, we sought to rectify some of the issues that had greatest impact directly within through direct negotiations. We both appointed the negotiating teams, as Sharon pointed out, and after hundreds of hours and more than 7 months, teams came up with the MOU that the commission now has before. The MOU has something for everybody to hate. But it did roll back. It did roll back, though not entirely, some of the restrictions that the result of 2017. Also, and importantly, Woodland agreed not to build a parking lot that, despite having approval for, listened to the concerns of many in our neighborhood, and in exchange, the community is willing to support measures which a number find objectionable. But there won't be a parking lot. On Wednesday last week, we held a community information session to go through the MOU, where residents were invited to ask questions and share their thoughts. The following day, we started a community-wide vote that lasted for 4 days. Final vote was 199 votes in support of the MOU and 77 votes against it. This is out of a total of approximately 530 potential votes, which represent the number of households in Ladera. Among participating household votes, 72% cast their support in favor of the MOU. Because of this, the LCA thus endorses the MOU on the agreed-to terms specified in the document and supports modifications to the CUP, which will be necessary to support the MOU. Today, you will hear from a number of Ladera residents who will share with you issues of importance, as well as the challenges of living in a small residential community with a vibrant school as its neighbor. You will hear different views too. You will hear views from those who supported the MOU, and you will hear views from those who did not. The issues you will hear about include preservation of green space for community use, traffic and parking concerns. And by the way, traffic and parking concerns. Just in case you missed them. Restrictions to access that impact the openness of our community. You will also hear about enforceability and compliance with the permit, since for a number of years, compliance with a number of the conditions was lacking. Finally, you'll hear about our community's need to be notified and included on any proposed changes or modifications to Woodland's permit before such occurs. I don't think anybody wishes to repeat what occurred in 2017, and this will prevent such. While I will not detail here, we do request the commission to consider conditions to resolve the issues that were not addressed in the MOU, but have subsequently come up in the community comment. You'll be able to find these concerns in tab C of the LCA updated referral letter, included in the supplemental memo that Luis referenced earlier. The Ladera community has historically had amicable relations with Woodland School, and we sincerely desire to return to the state. The agreement to the MOU is a solid step in the right direction, but it will take time to rebuild trust. This won't come overnight, but the more transparent and open we all can be, the sooner we'll return to the state. The LCA and Ladera community continue to support operation of Woodland School. However, and to be very clear, We do not support any continued efforts by Woodland to expand its operations to the detriment of the neighborhood. This includes the expansion of exclusive and non-exclusive operating hours, exclusive operation during summer vacation months, increased traffic and parking concerns, and encroachment into the licensed play areas that are reserved for public use. I'd like to thank you for your time today, and thank you for the Planning Commission and staff who have spent considerable time and effort to prepare for today's hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I will now call speakers in chambers, followed by speakers on Zoom. So first I will call Rose Marie Hintz, followed by Greg Hintz.
Good morning. My name is Rosemary Hens, and my family and I have lived directly across from Woodland School for the last 13 years. I have 2 small children, Christopher and Katie. You have all received the MOU between Woodland School and the Ladera community. The MOU took thousands of hours to develop and was an intense process for the community and its volunteer negotiators. This MOU requires Laderans to sacrifice a lot, but in the spirit of sharing and kindness, we took the risk and compromised with Woodland. The MOU has no enforcement mechanisms. Woodland refused that. And it relies solely on the trustworthiness of both parties. Sharon Chang from Woodland stated that the MOU was carefully agreed and deliberated on. However, in the last minute, they changed that. Yesterday, literally less than 2 days after the community voted in favor of the MOU, Woodland School has violated the MOU by submitting a memorandum authored by Mr. Monowitz to the Planning Commission. Last night, I sent emergency texts to my neighbors and to the school board. This letter claims that the school board and that the Ladera community support the changes proposed by Woodland. This is simply not true. Neither the LCA nor the school district saw or approved these changes submitted yesterday. Furthermore, these changes are not reflective of the MOU. A charitable person would say that these were just mistakes. For example, For example, the summer enrollment cap, which was negotiated for many hours, is 125 students. Yesterday, Woodland failed to include that. And if it wasn't for our last minute staying up all night, they wouldn't have changed it. Woodland added language that permits them to do any school activities during the weeknights and weekends. In a letter dated Monday morning, the school district explicitly stated they do not approve any school activities on the weekends. Finally, the MOU states, and I quote, "Woodland will not construct a new parking lot or slip road for the duration of its lease, including any extensions. Woodland will withdraw its plans and relinquish permission from both the county and the school district for parking lot construction in the licensed area," end quote. Instead, Woodland created a caveat around this in their letter yesterday to make it, and I quote, "contingent upon the county's approval of additional parking on the field," end quote. All the MOU provides is that the community will support the not this caveat. I don't think Wynn took his entire time. If I could please have a few more seconds, about 15 seconds. A charitable person would say that these were just mistakes. Given what I have witnessed over the last year, combined with Woodland hiring an expensive lobbyist with deep connections to the county and a prominent land use attorney, these are not mistakes. I ask you to incorporate the terms of the MOU and set the CBUP renewal for 5 years so that to place the burden of accountability onto Woodland and to not on the residents or the school district. Thank you for your time.
I will now call on Greg Hintz, followed by Kimberly Legg.
Good morning. So I'm Greg Hintz, Rosemary's husband. And as she said, we live immediately across the street from Woodland School. We moved into our home 13 years ago. When we first moved in, Woodland was an amazingly great neighbor, right? The administration interacted positively with us, and we supported their 2012 lease amendment and the CUP application. And this allowed Woodland to build a very large gymnasium on their campus. But since that time, the traffic, the noise, the environmental issues caused by the Woodland School have just gotten worse every year. It's now to the point where the only time we can have the ability to enjoy our community are on weekends, holidays, and during the summer months. I firmly believe that the reason for the increased environmental impact by Woodland is that the school site was just never intended to accommodate 300 students, nor was it intended or designed to accommodate a school with ambitions of becoming an elite private school with an extensive amount of programming outside of the classroom, and with the vast majority of its students being dropped off and picked up every day by car. Rosemary and I, we submitted our referral letter in October with a number of thoughts, but I just wanted to reiterate 4 of those thoughts today. Firstly, part of the reason that the school enrollment has increased so greatly is that the number of classrooms at Woodland School has dramatically increased. Some of this was permitted and authorized by both the county and the school district. However, the 3 tent classrooms were never permitted and they were never authorized by the school district or the county. They should be removed immediately. And I'll just note that in the comments today, they were referred to as tents. Up until about 3 or 4 months ago, they were always called tent classrooms. So these are classrooms. Secondly, I believe the experiment to increase enrollment from around 200 students in 2012 to 309 students today has failed, as is evidenced by the massive increase in environmental impact they have had since growing their enrollment to the 309 students that it is today. So I ask you to impose a cap of 275 students on the school. Thirdly, Woodland School is asked to have additional events and programming outside of school hours, including nights and weekends. I ask you to maintain the conditions of the 2012 CUP as it relates to this, and absolutely not let Woodland encroach on the fewer and fewer number of hours and days that our community is not overrun with traffic and noise from their activities. Lastly, Woodland School has violated the conditions of their existing CUP time and time again. They even admit to continuing to violate their CUP in the letter they submitted to the commission just yesterday, as well as their presentation today. And they said in their letter, and I quote, "Woodland's regular class day runs from 8:15 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., 15 minutes earlier than currently allowed, and 30 minutes later than currently allowed." I'm truly hopeful that they'll follow the conditions of whatever use permit is granted, but given their behavior historically and their open admission of violating their existing permit, I think we need to find a mechanism to hold them accountable. 5-year renewal for the CUP and not a 10-year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now call on Kimberly Legg, followed by Matt Trunnell.
Hi, Kimberly Legg. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm a Ladera resident and an LCA board member. I was born in Ladera in 1986. I was raised there and I worked very hard as an adult to return there with my husband and to raise our son, who's now 20 months old. My dad was one of the original Ladera residents. He bought his home in 1951 and raised my half siblings in Ladera, all of whom went to Ladera school. My dad lived in Ladera until he passed in his home at 100 years old. He was an active member of the community and lived a long, healthy life, and I attribute this to the Ladera community. At the heart of our community is the Ladera school site, including the field, the blacktop, and the play structures. After suffering 2 strokes, my dad and I walked the field and blacktop almost daily in the afternoons to do his physical therapy exercises. These were essential for his rehabilitation. The field and the basketball courts, the play structures are the only play areas for our children and our seniors to access within walking distance of our homes. I'm here today because it's essential that all Ladera residents have access to these areas. I asked the county not to renew permission for Woodland School to build a new driveway or parking lot or parking structure that reduces green space and play areas. I asked that fencing or barriers include doors, gates, or other lockable mechanisms for the leased and licensed play areas should remain unlocked outside of the hours of operation and periods of exclusive use, including weekends, holidays, and summer. Any new fencing or barriers should have gates to allow all current easements and allow access to the community. We are a community of about 500 homes, and Woodland is a school with over 300 students coming in and out of our neighborhood on a daily basis. I ask you to consider the impact that Woodland School has on our community and though I'm in support of the MOU, I appeal to you to remember all members of the Ladera community for their access to the play areas, the field, and the blacktop, not only children, but also the elderly residents who rely on the safe outdoor spaces for their health, well-being, and interactions with our neighbors. Thank you so much.
Matt Trunnell, followed by Michael Mastradea.
Commission members, my name is Matt Trunnell, and I wanted to speak today because I'm both a Ladera resident and a Woodland parent. So I think I have a variety of perspectives that are worth sharing. Specifically, I can see what some of my neighbors want with regard to access to the field and play areas, as well as with managing traffic. I want those things as well. I can also see things from the perspective of Woodland and the need to offer a competitive program that includes PE and after-school sports activities that require a field. As a resident of the Las Vegas School District, I also support the nearly $1 million of district funding that's provided by renting the school site to Woodland. And I appreciate the ongoing maintenance of the buildings and the grounds that Woodland performs, including the rehabilitation and the resodding of playfield that happened last summer, which benefits everyone. As we already heard, the school and the neighborhood negotiated, and those negotiated terms were put to a neighborhood vote this past weekend. There's a tremendous amount of comment within the community about this vote. And as you already heard, 72% of the vote was in favor, with over 50% turnout, if I understand the numbers correctly. I think it's pretty healthy. I read this as a resounding endorsement of the negotiated MOU between LCA and Woodland. It's my opinion that it's a very balanced set of compromises. My goal is for all reasonable requests to be reasonably accommodated, and I believe that that is in fact what has happened. Importantly, I think I and many of my neighbors wanted access to the field at 4 p.m. That is included in the MOU. That was the number one thing that I heard from my neighbors, and we got it. I was impressed by how the LCA and Woodland conducted the negotiations, and were able to adapt to a lot of input and arrive at this deal. So I hope it's the basis for a renewed CUP for Woodland. That's all I have to say. I want to thank you for your service, and it's my first time speaking here. It's so nice to see the public's business being conducted so professionally. So thank you.
Thank you. Michael Mastradera, followed by Justin Maxwell.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Michael Mastandrea. I am a Woodland Board member, and one of the roles that I play on the Woodland Board is serving on the Disabilities Commission or Committee, excuse me. And I wanted to mention one item that has been brought up by Lynn, by Sharon, and Jennifer, which is parking traffic impacts on the community. This is something that we take really seriously. It's been a big part of the conversations, and as a result, very excited about the progress we have made in the process, and just wanted to say here that we are really committed to continue to work together to address these issues going forward as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Justin Maxwell, followed by Avida Soto.
Morning. Hi, I'm Justin Maxwell. I'm a homeowner in Ladera, and I've lived here for over 14 years. We were making decisions on where to live on the peninsula. Woodland was one of the positive things for us, the community. We're engaged in our community. We're active members of the LCA, Ladera Recreation District, the Community Emergency Response Team, the Emergency Preparedness Committee, and our kids attend Woodland School. They love it there, and we love the school. I'm in an important position of understanding the need for Ladera residents to share outdoor spaces and for Woodland to operate a school. I've seen both sides of this. And with that, I'm really proud of the work that the LCA and the Woodland Board have done and our community in reaching an agreement, but moreover, in building an important ongoing relationship for our community going forward. The work that Woodland has done this year in addressing community concerns alone shows that commitment. I know that not everyone is happy with this agreement, but the neighborhood votes were counted, and we support the LCA's recommendation for the CUP renewal. The most significant constituency of Ladera just wants things peaceful and for the school to coexist with the LCA representing their best interests and concerns. By approving Woodland's use permit, San Mateo County will establish an important milestone in facilitating that journey with us. So I'm asking you, please help our neighborhood move forward. And thank you so much for all that you do and for all of your patience with us. I know that it's a lot.
Thank you. Avida Soto, followed by Hillary Godard.
Good morning, planning commission members and staff. My name is Nita Soto. 3 of my kids graduated from Woodland. I am part of the Woodland board and I've been part of the community for 10 years. I'm here on behalf of the Woodland Parent Association to reinforce 2 points. The first is that our administration takes the issues of parking, traffic management, and parent notification very seriously. Dr. Warren, Ms. Tanya, and Woodland's board are continuously looking at best practices to ensure daily drop-off and pickup, major and minor event logistics, and new parking. Dr. Warren's weekly parent updates always address any issues identified by our team or our neighbors. Second, a request for additional small meetings and events after 6 p.m. and on weekend comes with a full understanding that our parking for these events must be fully contained in our parking lot and not create any quality of life effects for our neighbors. As parent leaders, we take Woodland's responsibility to be a good neighbor very seriously. It's also important to us as parents because it's consistent with values that we teach them. Thank you for your time.
Hillary Godard, followed by Ellen Rubin.
Morning, my name is Hillary Goddard. I am a Woodland parent as well as I live in the Las Vegas Elementary School District. Out of respect for everyone's time and the process today, we have intentionally limited the number of Woodland speakers for public comment today. I would just like to ask everyone in the room today who is here to support Woodland to stand up to show our respect for today's public hearing and for a use. Thank you.
Ellen Rubin, sorry if I mispronounced your name, followed by Tracy Kraft.
Not to express what I hope to say in 3 minutes. Forgive me for speaking in bullet points. My name is Ellen Rubin, lived in Ladera 48 plus years, gifted with living in a neighborhood that's been able to foster a true sense of community. So unique and such a gift to our children, many of whom have chosen to return to Ladera as adults to raise their children. I address you today as I deplore seeing that stripped away from residents who purchase property to live here, raise their children, and who support their local school with their tax dollars. Both my sons attended Las Lomitas School District, now my 4 grandchildren. I spent 40 years teaching in public education. It's on the bus to Sacramento when the district first mentioned leasing our neighborhood school, hoping to keep it open for Ladera kids as so designed for our community. When rented, I was consoled given the promise none of our rights to property use would be forfeited. Beth Polito, current superintendent, who I know having worked with her for a short time during my 30-year tenure at Woodside School, should be fully aware of the importance of community and attention to the care and welfare of the whole child, which was coveted and carefully fostered there. Yet our community was given the wrongful burden of negotiating our rights in Woodland's proposed contract extension, given the school districts turning over their fiduciary duties to protect its taxpayers and its district's children to a volunteer community board to negotiate. That such has caused further community unrest given processes followed is simply wrong. Since leasing, Woodland's negative impacts on our community escalate. Aesthetically, built a monster gym, congest our narrow streets with cars, whether parked or lined up for 3 separate pickups or drop-offs daily, built additional classrooms on site, run 3+ businesses, park cars on the field, usurping treasured open space. Legally, because they've denied community access to the field after normal school hours, depriving us of the one open space to freely engage. Seek further exclusive use, further parking privileges, more operating hours than permitted. They want to host evening and weekend meetings and now fence the property, further impacting community aesthetics. Safety issues are inadequately addressed. This was a rural community with 2 one-lane roads in and out off a 2-lane rural corridor. It was not meant to accommodate traffic or school this size, which continues to want its student count to grow. And the community is already burdened 3 different times a day where school traffic backs up 4 to 5 streets trying to exit Ladera. People drive outside the lane on both sides of you. Residents can't turn into their streets blocked by the queue of cars, and exiting Ladera is painfully delayed. I have 2 sentences if you'd allow me to finish. A life safety issue ensues if a fire ever happens in this community. There is simply insufficient egress. People will burn. Earlier, I addressed my concerns the school district failed the community to date in advocating our rights. I hope the county will not follow suit. Please ensure proper restrictions are placed on the cup to support our neighborhood quality of life.
Thank you. We have 4 more speakers in chambers, and then we will move on to Zoom speakers. Tracy Kraft, followed by Catherine Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Tracy Kraft, and I'm a resident of Ladera. I've lived in the community for 10 years. We moved when I was pregnant with my first child. Our boys are now rising 3rd and 5th graders at Las Flamitas and La Entrada schools. I'm here today on their behalf, as well as many of my neighbors who are equally as concerned as I am about the impact of Woodland School in Ladera. As you've heard, the Ladera school site was originally intended to serve the local community. Woodland, to their credit, has evolved into an institution that now accommodates 309 students, of which 98% live outside of Ladera. But such growth of a commuter school has brought a host of challenges that persist that you've heard about. We face traffic and parking issues that violate the CUP, which not only inconvenience residents, but also pose safety concerns for children like mine. The other notable impact is the reduction of use of play spaces that were historically available to local children. While this concession was offered as part of the negotiated MOU between LCA and Woodland, it should be recognized that Ladera children attend public school 15 minutes away. Limiting their ability to use the green space and play areas in their own neighborhood after school goes against what experts say kids need and what makes up a healthy community. Green space is crucial for building strong social connections and promoting a healthy lifestyle, as defined by the county's own standards for a healthy neighborhood. It is vital that the Ladera community retains its green space and can enjoy these health benefits. I request the county not renew Woodland's permission to build a parking lot on green space. I also request that the county only approve the fence proposal as agreed in the MOU, and that any fencing or barrier that includes doors, gates, or other lockable mechanisms should remain unlocked outside of hours of operation of both the leased and licensed areas, including weekends, holidays, and summer, so that it is available for community use. Thank you for listening to my thoughts today. Ladera is a principled community and has supported Woodland in its educational mission for decades. We just want them to be a good neighbor. We need the county to ensure that, which is why I also request the renewal permit be for 5 years to ensure greater accountability. Their growth and success should not come at the expense of a cul-de-sac community not built for their size. Thank you.
Catherine Brown, followed by Joanne Barreda.
Hi, my name is Catherine Brown. My husband and I and our 4 kids have lived in Ladera for 7 years. All 4 of our kids have gone through or are still in
Las Lomitas Elementary School District schools. We pay considerable property taxes in San Mateo County and contribute volunteer time, labor, and money to the LLESD Foundation. We use the field and paved play areas at the Ladera school site for activities including pickup soccer games, flying remote control toy airplanes, roller skating, and other fun games. It's a natural meeting spot for our kids and their friends and is the only flat, treeless space conducive to kite flying and field sports near our neighborhood. Several times in the past, I or my husband has been with our younger kids playing on the playground. No one else was present, but eventually an adult came out from Woodland School to ask us to leave because their after-school program was still occurring around 5 p.m. I want to clarify a point about the MOU, which, as previously mentioned, was a burden placed on the residents because the school board abdicated its responsibilities as a landlord. The MOU was in fact approved by 38% of the households in Ladera. The time the community had to review the MOU and discuss it with their neighbors was about 5 days. And all notification of the MOU and voting on it was done electronically. Hard copy letters were not sent out, and thus 50% of households did not vote. I'm here to oppose Woodland School's new CUP. Since they are unwilling to share their leased space with the neighborhood, requiring exclusive use for their after-school care programs, extending their operating hours directly steals access to public land from the residents of Ladera. It's disappointing that a private school is being allowed to exclude the constituents of the property's owner, a public school district. Woodland School's leadership consistently mislead the neighborhood, saying one thing to the Ladera Community Association while ambitiously advocating for their plans to grow to the county and others. Woodland School repeatedly violates the current CUPS requirement to notify the Ladera Community Association regarding parking, traffic mitigation, and events at the school. Due to their duplicitous behavior, which is becoming more and more evident as public records are released, they cannot be trusted to do what they say they will do, and the MOU is not enforceable. I ask that you reject the proposed CUP. Thank you for your time and service to the community. Joanne Barada, followed by Susanna Chenette. Yes.
My name is Joan Barada, and I have lived in Ladera for 20 years, where I raised my 4 children who all attended Las Lomitas and La Entrada, and 2 of them are present with me supporting the Ladera residents. Woodland's parking and traffic issues are notorious in Ladera. Woodland introduces over 200,000 cars per year into our small neighborhood, which presents safety, noise, pollution, and evacuation issues for Ladera, not to mention speeding, crossing yellow lines, brake checking, etc., that Woodland cars cause. At drop-off and pickup times, the residents cannot leave or return home easily. Often there are cars stopped all the way from Alpine Road to Erica. Please see the map. Please also see the little icon that says parked car and house. That's exactly where I live. Many of these times, the streets are blocked from egress, either in or out, as cars block intersections. Many drivers have no idea how to use the turning lane on Alpine when turning left, and consequently, the traffic is a nightmare and stacked up for several streets from Alpine. I can't tell you the number of times my family has been late to work, an appointment, their school, a doctor's visit, etc. For me, a normal commute to work is under 15 minutes. With the Ladera traffic, it's often twice that. It is extremely stressful and it impacts the quality of our lives daily. Ladera was not built to handle this much traffic. It is unsafe to have this many cars coming in and out of our small neighborhood. The parking on the streets is problematic. Drop off is problematic. Driving past the school at drop off and pickup is dangerous, and sometimes it's the only way to get out. If you can see from the map, I should turn right to go to Alpine. I often have to turn left past the school and exit on La Cuesta. Cars are coming in the opposite direction of those exiting, trying to get around the drop-off line, creating the risk of head-on collisions. There are just too many cars. It makes it hard to navigate and get around. Dr. Warren showed a slide, and if my math is correct, approximately only a third of the students enrolled are using alternate means to come to school. That number has to increase substantially. I happen to work at a private school that also struggles with traffic issues and complaints from neighbors. To reduce traffic, we offer bus routes to and from school, both morning and afternoon, from various locations up and down the peninsula. We run a carpool map. We have a shuttle service to the train. There's always plenty of parking for bikes. Employees are given a financial stipend for shared commuting. Woodland states that they offer staggering drop-off pickup times, and I request that the county require staggered drop-off morning and pickup times to mitigate traffic impacts arriving and departing Ladera. I see no benefit from what they say they are staggering right now. Furthermore, I request that the county impose stronger traffic requirements and enforce and be placed on Woodland School. I request that Woodland provide the LCA with a trip reduction program report containing the required elements. And I do support the recent MOU, although it's not perfect. I'd like you to help us coexist in a positive manner. Thank you very much.
Susanna Chinette, followed by the last speaker in chambers, Carolyn Chase.
Good morning. I'm here to, as a Laderan. I grew up in Ladera. I'm not sure. Can you hear me if I don't? Okay. A little awkward.
You don't have to bend over.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Ladera. I'm fortunate enough that we were able to, thank you. That was, can't let that one go. Fortunate to be able to move back here with my young family. My parents live on one side of the field. My family lives on the other. We cross the Ladera school site constantly, moving between our houses. Also growing up here, I know how delightful Woodland used to be. We used to have movie nights at the rec center there. Not the rec center, the auditorium. We used to have AYSO practices on the field. We used to have after school basketball. All of this has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. Since the county last approved Woodland CUP, the public's legal and valid enforceable rights to the public property are now have been eroded and have been grossly impacted. Residents actually filed suit to clarify what these legal rights are to the public property. There's a currently active and pending litigation that should clarify these rights. Because Woodland's rights are uncertain and subject to this litigation, we would like to request that until the rights are resolved formally by a court of law, that this CUP should issue on a more limited basis. Nobody disputes that a CUP is necessary here. Everyone supports a CUP. However, the scope and duration of that CUP is what's at issue today. Until the parties' rights are settled in this legal action, the CUP should only issue for a period of a year or less, subject to yearly review, so that the county doesn't inadvertently grant rights that Woodland doesn't have to Woodland, which then the public is unable to redress except through litigation, which nobody wants here. My second point is that since 2012, Woodland added about 15,000 square feet of enclosed classroom and auditorium space. Woodland was never subject to CEQA review for any of these additions. I would like to request that CEQA review be instituted for the fence design because it impacts mature heritage oak trees. I would also like to request that the Planning Commission treat Woodland's request to amend its parking lot design to revert it to the 2023 design as a new request and subject that parking lot to CEQA review. I would also like requests of CEQA review of the portable temporary classrooms to the extent that those classrooms are now being converted. Thank you.
I will now call on the last speaker in chambers, Carolyn Chase.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Caroline Chase. I want to mention that I've been a land use attorney for almost 2 decades, but I'm not here today as a paid legal representative. I am here today as a member of the Ladera community. I have represented multiple private schools over the years, including the University of San Francisco, Presidio Hill School, Presidio Knoll School, Wilmerding High School, and La Escuela. I have never before seen a private school come before a planning commission without a legally enforceable neighborhood agreement in the face of neighborhood opposition. So I'm a bit shocked and dismayed by the situation. In fact, I have seen neighborhood agreements with a term of 99 years. I've seen neighborhood agreements that require multiple thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of improvements to the neighborhood. Here, LCA does have an MOU with Woodland, but we need your help. We need a way to make the provisions of the MOU that can be imposed as conditions of approval to be included in the conditional use permit authorization. I recognize that the entirety of the MOU cannot be included. That's not your purview, but there are certain conditions that can be imposed. And so I've taken the liberty of modifying the conditions of approval that have been proposed by planning department staff, both in the original staff report and also in the staff report addendum. And I do apologize for getting this to you at this late moment, but I wanted to incorporate the staff recommendations in the addendum, and that was not available until yesterday. And I was up quite late working on this, and didn't think you'd appreciate a 1 a.m. So I tried to keep it concise and specific to the conditions of approval that are affected by the MOU. And I believe that these requested and suggested changes are indeed consistent with the MOU. I was tempted to go further, but I wanted to be respectful of the MOU between LCA and. So for example, as some of my community members have mentioned, we'd love to see a shorter term for this CUP renewal of 5 years. I didn't include that change because that's not addressed in the MOU, but I do think that it will be wise under this. One last thing to mention, and then I'll stop. I want to mention that the Planning Commission has broad authority under the county zoning regulations, specifically by approving the granting of any use permit, the Planning Commission shall designate such conditions in connection therewith as will, in its opinions, to secure substantially the objectives as to light, air, public health, safety, morals, convenience, and general health.
Thank you. And that concludes in-person comments. I will now move to Zoom. And I will first call on Lenny Roberts, followed by Alex Driscoll Smith. Lenny, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I'm speaking today as a longtime resident in Ladera, which is an unincorporated community of only 530 homes, and we're adjacent to the town of Portola Valley. I was going to repeat what I had in my letter to you, but I think it's more important to comment that Ladera residents do enjoy a wide variety of recreational facilities and activities. The Ladera Recreation District's facilities on 3.5 acres adjacent to Woodland School include a newly upgraded swimming pool that's open year-round. We have a newly upgraded wading pool for toddlers and a spacious community recreation room for neighborhood events and meetings, as well as yoga fitness classes and other after-school activities and private parties that can all be accommodated within that facility. The rec district's beloved Ladera land, which is open to all year-round, includes many play structures for a variety of ages, as well as picnic tables. And we also have a network of off-street community paths that are used by many neighbors, as well as Woodland's upper grade students who are dropped off and picked up at the Ladera Shopper. Realtors regularly tout our community recreation facilities, as well as the acclaimed Las Lomitas School District, as important benefits in choosing a house in Ladera. Woodland School offers additional choices in education and enrichment activities, as well as extended school hours for families with working parents, which is essential in today's world. Our community has sponsored for many years events that promote diversity, neighborliness, and kindness throughout the year. Unfortunately, the current intensive debate over community rights versus Woodland's duty to ensure security for students in their care and custody seems to me to be eerily reflective of what is happening nationally. I remain hopeful that we will find common ground through ongoing good faith work, building on the MOU that has been agreed to by a 72% yes vote, which is, as any elected official knows, is a landslide vote of confidence. Your approval of Woodline's use permit with amendments requested by Woodland is an important step towards the goal of equitable sharing of the play areas. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Alex Driscoll Smith, followed by Daniel Warren. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you. My name is Alex Driscoll Smith, and my family and I are 11-year Ladera residents. Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity to share my family's strong support of Woodland School's CUP renewal application, including the extension of its operating hours to 6 p.m. on weekdays. As background, my wife grew up in Portola Valley and actually learned to swim in the 1970s at the LRD, Ladera Recreation District. We moved to Ladera 11 years ago, just a few weeks before our daughter was born. She attended the LLA ESD schools, Las Lomitas, for several years from kindergarten through 3rd grade. And we joined Woodland School just last year in 2023. So I think we can provide a sort of a historical perspective, a Ladera resident perspective, an LLESD parent perspective, and a Woodland perspective. Having Woodland School operating in Ladera has been an important educational option for our family. My wife and daughter are high risk for complicating factors if they were ever to catch COVID. And so being able to be at a local school that we could walk to with small class sizes and a school that cares deeply for our health, safety, and security of our daughter has been vital and hugely appreciated by us. A few points I'd like to emphasize. First, the Woodland Extended Care Athletics and Summer Camp programs are important for dual working families. Our daughter participates in the athletics program 4 to 5 days a week at Woodland, and many other families utilize the extended care program through till 6 p.m. each day. Second, Woodland makes strenuous efforts to inform Ladera about campus operations, events, parking and traffic enforcement and safety. There are emails that are sent by Dr. Warren to the Ladera listserv at least 1 or 2 days in advance of any such event. And as Woodland parents, we are notified about traffic requirements, very frequently, constantly throughout the year, as reminders. I think Dr. Warren and the school's respect for Ladera, for us as Ladera residents, and for its relations with the community of Ladera is truly sincere. Third, I would urge the county to renew Woodlands Cup and in particular extend the operating hours from 5:30 until 6 to align with the extended care and athletics program. Just a couple of other brief comments on the fence. We strongly support increased security for our daughter at the campus. Personally, we would have preferred the fence extend around the field as well for security reasons, but we do support the compromises that the LCA and Ladera and Woodland have made in the MOU. And lastly, I would just stand by on the traffic issues by the comments in our October referral letter, where I think that traffic management is actually very smoothly. So in conclusion, thank you for your attention, and we urge a timely renewal of Woodland School Cup, including the extension of operating hours. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Daniel Warren, followed by Trevor. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Daniel Warren. I live in Ladera and serve on the board of the Ladera Community Association. If I go over by a few seconds, I hope to be allowed to use the LCA's remaining time from earlier. As mentioned, many residents accepted the precise language in the MOU reluctantly, as it includes various painful concessions that would only be allowed as part of the whole bargain. We asked the county to treat it as an indivisible package. I will focus my time on the issue of traffic, which was not addressed by the MOU. Cars transporting students do not consistently follow the specific rules of the CUP, nor even the general traffic laws, creating significant congestion and unsafe conditions. I encourage you to discount the study commissioned and paid for by Woodland as is not representative of a typical day, nor does it address the large backup on La Mesa. Vehicles regularly block the red curb leading to the school entrance. I witnessed cars U-turn at the T intersection to leave via La Cuesta Way instead of waiting in line on La Mesa Way. I have witnessed countless cars on La Cuesta crossing the double yellow center line and heading into oncoming traffic on a blind turn, having narrowly avoided multiple accidents both as a driver and as a pedestrian. The situation is not new, nor is it resolved by any recent Woodland traffic mitigation efforts. A resident submitted a report that just last week they documented 21 cars in a 30-minute period crossing the double yellow on a major event day. I request that stronger traffic requirements and enforcement be included in the CUP. The traffic backup of Woodland vehicles on La Mesa turning left on Alpine Road can back up about 1,500 feet to Erica Way and routinely take over 10 to 15 minutes to escape. Turning left to exit the community onto Alpine from either La Mesa or La Cuesta is very challenging and is the subject of another project with the county that has been ongoing for at least 7 years with no expected resolution for at least another 5 to 7 years more. A single car not willing to brave the gauntlet can hold up the line for an indeterminate duration. It is only getting worse over time with the increasing enrollment of Woodland and construction of more housing units across the Alpine corridor in Portola Valley, such as the Stanford Wedge project. I've been late for so many medical appointments for my child and myself due to this unpredictable traffic. This is a common grievance among residents. I request that the county require staggered drop-off to mitigate this issue. Please enhance the requirements that decrease traffic through our limited access neighborhood. The school site was designed for local residents, not commuters. Current efforts to reduce traffic are not sufficiently effective, such as carpools, alternative drop-off locations, or walking or biking to school. I request that the county enforce the required reporting of the trip reduction program and that the report also be provided to the LCA. Please ensure effective programs are in place and thoroughly utilized. During drafting and passage of a new wildfire defensible space ordinance, I got the impression that we may not be able to escape effectively in a wildfire or earthquake emergency, even without the school traffic. We do not have an evacuation plan currently modeled with the school current enrollment, but it was suggested that we fortify our homes since we may be stuck here. Even in a small-scale situation like a house fire or a medical emergency, the traffic backup may impede first responders. I request the county discuss evacuation plans more thoroughly with Woodside Fire Marshal and understand how Woodland traffic impacts our emergency needs. Our community requests the county to enforce the current CUP conditions, support modifications to the CUP.
I will now call on Trevor, followed by Don Coleman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Trevor Oliver. I'm a Ladera resident and I have two kids, 6 and 8, who attend Los.
Trevor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Sorry about that. Go ahead. Seems like we lost Trevor, so I'll move on to Don.
Can you hear me?
Oh.
I'm back. Can you restart my time, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Trevor Oliver. I'm a Ladera resident. I have two children, 6 and 8, both of whom attend Los Lomitas Elementary. I appreciate Dr. Warren's description of their traffic mitigation strategy, but it is very much process focused, and I wanted to talk about the lived experience. I've had to swerve to avoid being struck while driving by cars crossing the dividing line coming out of the Woodland parking lot. I've had to swerve to avoid head-on collisions from cars going around the drop-off queue for people dropping off at Woodland. And these are not rare occurrences. This is on a weekly basis. During my commute, I spend approximately 15 to 20 seconds passing the Woodland campus. And I would say that 3 days out of 5, I see violations of the CUP specified traffic flow procedure. I used to email Dr. Warren about this, and I finally just grew so tired of inaction and of the workload associated with notification that I've given up on that process. I have been nearly struck in a crosswalk by a Woodland parent after drop off while out for a run because they were on their phone texting or reading emails. I've provided regular notice of these violations and requests and even suggestions for how to improve traffic. Nothing happened. The only time any change has ever happened is when the CUP for this hearing today became somewhat under threat. And then we started to see some action. But through public records requests, we found that Woodland is communicating that some of these changes are unsustainable and therefore cannot be expected to continue until once the CUP is renewed. I believe Woodland is doing their best from a process perspective to manage this traffic, but the property is simply not meant to handle a student population of its current size. I don't see why we would have any faith that these processes would continue after the CUP is renewed. And Woodland has no sustainable plan for how to help traffic going forward. I would therefore request that the CUP be renewed for only a much shorter period of time, ideally 1 year, and that the long-term solution is only that the population of Woodland must be reduced. And I would like to give them the opportunity to, within that 1 year, to try to find mitigation strategies to improve traffic within the neighborhood. But if they can't do that, then the only real solution is to have the population reduced. These rules are in place to protect the health and welfare and safety of our community. And we don't get to just brush them aside because Woodland wants to be bigger than the property can support. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Don Coleman, followed by Ellie Sugarman. Don?
Hello. My name is Don Coleman. I'm a 12-year resident of Ladera, and I've had the privilege to serve my community as a member of the negotiating team, working with counterparts at the Woodland School over the last 6 months. As you've heard, our neighborhood is something we genuinely cherish. It's small, secluded, rural, and deeply communal. I consider myself deeply privileged to be part of the community and consider so many of those who have spoken today friends. We are very fortunate that we live in a place that so many care so deeply about. As you've also heard, we have long enjoyed positive relations with the Woodland School. Woodland was an active and vibrant part of our community for many years. You've also heard that we've had an alternate experience for the past several years. This has created the significant distrust you hear in the room today. I'm an optimist. I believe that through mutual commitment to good neighborliness, we can help return to that prior state. I personally dedicated much time in the belief that this is possible. Members of the negotiating team on both sides contributed significantly to reach an agreement that was codified in the MOU. You've heard that this is not a perfect agreement. You've heard many views from my neighbors. The 2017 process significantly disadvantaged the community. The MOU is our best alternative to no agreement. However, it's something that we carefully crafted after many hours of work, and it's our best effort to govern ourselves and advance a return to the good neighborly state that we so seek. I ask you to ensure that the MOU is enforced strictly and as written. If you have questions on the interpretation, I would ask that you please consult with the LCA and gain any necessary clarification. It's my belief that the best path forward to return to the good neighborly state that we sincerely seek is a compromise, one that the county diligently and scrupulously enforces and monitors. Thank you.
I will now call on Ellie Sugarman, followed by Nancy Lobel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you again for this opportunity. My name is Eli Sugarman. My family and I moved to Ladera 2 years ago and have really come to love the community. My wife and I volunteer in the community to ensure that our daughters, ages almost 6 and almost 8, and all kids in the school district have the best educational experience they can. My wife has been secretary of the PTA, and I am president of the Los Lomitas Education Foundation. In that volunteer capacity, I've spoken with many members of the community, the vast majority of whom are beyond frustrated by the lack of transparency and accountability with Woodland. What happened in 2017 was outrageous. Both the county and the school board failed their constituents. The changes to the lease and the CUP were not minor, as explained so eloquently by my neighbors. They've materially negatively impacted our community. We and our kids have been deprived of longstanding community resources without being consulted or involved. I wish we had legal recourse to challenge the deficient and unfair processes that were followed in 2017. Unfortunately, I have not seen anything to suggest that we do. Lawsuits brought by a small number of Laderans without transparency or community support are a distraction and waste of school resources. You are our best hope for a fair resolution. For multiple years following 2017, Woodland failed to comply with the CUP, and the county failed to enforce it. Woodland's compliance improved in the last 12 months, but only because the CUP was up for renewal, and Woodland knew that the county staff, LCA, and various Laderans had documented Woodland's routine violations of the CUP. Moving forward, we cannot be lax about compliance with the CUP. We all need to be vigilant and honor its terms. This includes the school board, which I hope will add the LCA as an interested party in its lease agreement to provide added notice and transparency. The county also needs to step up and do its job by responding to documented violations and enforcing the CUP's terms. I do not understand why it has repeatedly done so to date. Woodland's lack of transparency continues through today, as has been discussed. So, basically what I'm trying to highlight is that to rebuild trust, we need to verify. It seems only prudent that Woodland would be required to provide at least 30 days notice to the LCA and Ladera community prior to submission of any request for a change or modification of the CUP, and that any submission must include certification of compliance with this notice provision. That is something I ask of you. Likewise, because the repeated violations of the CUP and lack of administrative reviews, I request that the extension of the CUP be no longer than 5 years. There is no trust between the community and Woodland, and waiting 10 years to reevaluate the CUP is much too long. Finally, I would like to close by echoing the sentiment expressed by Heather Hopkins, the school board chair, in her letter, which reiterates the need for the county to step up and ensure compliance with the CUP and incorporation of all elements of the MOU into it. I reluctantly voted in favor of the MOU, given it's our best chance to move past this acrimony and set up the community as our children deserve. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Now I will call on Nancy Lobel, followed by Linda McGeever.
Hello, my name is Nancy Lobel. I live on Durazno Way, just around the corner from the Ladera Rec Center and backing onto the school. I want to reiterate some of the comments that my neighbors made, especially the comments of Greg Heinz and Ellen Rubin, who I thought really summarized our plight. The Woodland School, it has good intentions, but it has an enormous impact on our community. The traffic is, it's hard to describe. I think the board members should come and spend some time in our community in the morning and the afternoon if they haven't already done so. It's a great safety concern. Any need for an evacuation, safety issues not only affect the residents of the community, but people in the school. The one item in the MOU that really alarmed me was that they be approved for at least, I think it was 3 years, I don't remember, but in order so they could raise capital. So it would help them in their capital fund efforts to raise because they want to grow bigger. I strongly oppose them becoming bigger. I agree with my neighbors who say they should be smaller. I just wanted to say that I couldn't be there in person. I know there are a lot of Woodland supporters there in person, and I just wanted to say I've been attending this meeting via Zoom, and I stand with all my neighbors who think that the Woodland School is not considering us as much as they could, and they want to grow bigger, and that will make it even more difficult for them to consider our safety and our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have 4 hands remaining on Zoom, and I would like to ask any speaker, if you would like to speak please raise your hand now. But I will call on Linda McGeever, followed by Casey.
Thank you so much for affording time for the community to speak. It's really much appreciated. My name is Linda McGeever, and our family has lived in Ladera for the past 24 years. I've volunteered extensively for about 14 years in our local public and private schools, serving 2 terms as foundation president and the rest as an executive member on those boards. I'm a huge advocate for our communities and our students. Our household voted no on the MOU, and I ask that you don't renew the CUP as drafted. While the vote numbers which passed the MOU, Ladera vote numbers sound compelling, important context that I want to share for your consideration is that I believe fear carried the day. The LCA attorney advised the LCA that if our negotiated MOU did not pass, the alternative could be even worse for Laderans. And so I think that was really an important factor in the vote before you. In addition, there was much confusion and swirl that took place on our neighborhood listserv in the 5 days that we were given to review all the documents, right as school end activities were in full swing and summer travels had already begun. And these emails showed confusion in the facts, perspectives, and opportunities in front of us. So I think fear and confusion really carried the day with the MOU passing. I don't understand why Laderans are being asked to concede any more than we've already conceded when we lost our beloved local Ladera school. We're being asked to concede more than any other Los Lomitas occupied and or leased properties do. Those schools are allowed shared public access outside of school hours, which I believe are consistently 8:30 to 3 p.m. And so I would ask that you reject the drafted CUP and work to revert to the renewal of a CUP that's more aligned to the original CUP that gives us more typical access that is afforded the other Los Lomitas properties. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I will now call on Casey, followed by Diane Schrader.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Casey Rich. Our family lives on Gabarda Way. If you're unfamiliar, that's in Ladera, but a few blocks away from Woodland. I am speaking specifically to the field use. Our family voted against the MOU adamantly because of the 4 p.m. use time. That's 1 hour and 40 minutes after our children get out of school. That means my children would have, my 4 boys in the district would have to get off the bus, come home, and make to Woodland during a time that I cannot trust that they can walk in our own neighborhood because of the Woodland drivers. Yet at their own school, as soon as school is out at 2:20, anyone can enter campus. It's very frustrating that the school board would tell them that there's rules for some of their classmates and not for them, and that Woodland parents specifically living in Ladera are speaking to the unsafety of our neighborhood while living and sending your kids amongst us. Our children also deserve to use that field, and they can get off a bus and go. So our family is asking the county to reconsider and make it accessible at the same time that all the other LLESD properties are. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have 2 hands remaining on Zoom. So I will call on Diane Schrader, followed by our last speaker, Kevin Lanigan.
I am Diane Schrader. I'm a 21-year resident of Ladera. I have attended all of the LLESD meetings discussing Woodland and the various permits and licensing. Also, in the last week, especially those last 5 days leading up to the CUP vote, I poured through over 800 pages of public records requests. I can't emphasize more what the previous speaker said about the fear and the lack of information that went into the vote on the MOU from the residents. I also want to provide a little transparency about some of the math in that it was said that 72% of residents of households, I think was the word that was used in Lewis's previous introduction and such on the support behind the MOU, and that's actually incorrect. If you look at it by the numbers, 199 households voted in favor of the MOU, but 77 households voted against it, and 250 households abstained. So that is not 72, only 37.6, I believe is the math, of Ladera residents actually voted for the MOU. And as you're hearing from some of them, they're voting for this out of fear as well. And so I think what I will ask for in conjunction with other Ladera residents is that we just go back to the use permit that we used to have. We go back to the agreements, the capacity of the school. Also, one of the reasons why we have so many issues with traffic is the increased number of students. So you'll hear 325 students that come into the school every day, but you're not hearing the administration and the staff and the teachers and such. We have to account for them as well. There are only 529 homes in the community. So you're almost, I have to imagine, you're getting pretty close to doubling the capacity of our community just with these folks. So with all of that, I also want to press the county for enforceability and accountability, because I can say that I have reported things to the county in the past and not seen any response from that. Certainly the sheriff doesn't like to be called for code enforcement. And so we ask as the community that there would be more code enforcement and accountability for that, for the violations that we see and that we report to you. Again, I believe that with all of this, we can be good neighbors. There was a point in time where my children went to Woodland, so I know what it's like to be a Woodland parent. And I really do hope that we can come to some synergy on all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will now call on our last speaker on Zoom, and that is Kevin Lanigan.
Good morning. Thanks for taking the time for this. I would support the statements that some of the prior speakers have made in terms of concerns of community access to the field, a well-maintained field, one which isn't parked on a regular basis, and the traffic and parking concerns. I'm also a little stunned that the CUP in question expands Woodland's uses and rights and that sort of thing, when in the past it's blatantly violated the existing CUP and violated county codes. And so I don't see why that should be promoted and expanded upon. Now, specific in terms of traffic and parking, getting out of the neighborhood during drop-off and pickup times for Woodland is a very lengthy process. And there's been a lot of talk about mitigation efforts, but I think what matters is what the real impact is. And there's not a lot of hard data on that. And looking back over some of the county records for the Stanford Wedge Project, the draft environmental impact report said without the Wedge Project and without the continued growth of programs at Woodland, getting out of our neighborhood was a basically very low level of service with long and very long wait times. And I think if you actually took the numbers and studied it based upon when specifically drop off and pickup happens, as opposed to just a total AM and PM, you'd find that there is extremely low level of service in being able to get out of this neighborhood that obviously has many, many concerns. So I would suggest that as part of any plan going forward, that Woodland be required to not monitor how many people are in a carpool, but what is the level of service getting out of the neighborhood during their drop off and pickup times, and that they report it transparently to the neighborhood so we can see what happens. Because it's the efforts, the work at Woodland is a dramatic impact on the neighborhood, but it's not the only. The Stanford Wedge project obviously makes it harder, and additional development makes it harder. And it's a terrible situation, unfortunately, that we've gotten to live with. And I can tell you, over the past 24 years, it's gotten worse and worse and worse in the operation of Woodland. Thanks for taking the time.
And with that, Madam Chair, there are no further comments for item 3.
Thank you. We will now close public comment for this item. Does anyone want a break before we move on? We okay? The applicant had wanted to speak a few words at this point.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Rank, Land Use Council for Woodland School. I've also been doing this for a couple decades. I just want to briefly address the litigation that was brought up this morning. The speaker and her husband are actually the plaintiffs in those claims brought in federal court. The judge has already dismissed one aspect of that case on a jurisdictional basis, as well as others. And I just wanted to confirm that this CUP is not in dispute, and I'm going to hand it over to Sharon.
Commissioners and planning staff, I just wanted to address a few items that were raised in public comment. The first one is public access to the field and play areas. Luis referenced a letter that was emailed out to the listserv, as well as hard copy mailed to all residents in Ladera on March 8th. This outlined that the public is allowed on the play areas and blacktop at 5 p.m. and the field at 4 p.m. and access anytime on weekends in the summer. This is also noted in the MOU. The second is regarding the gates, and you can reference the fence diagram that you have. There are gates that provide access to the play areas and the field. The field is not gated, and our intention is to secure the campus when our students are present. The third is related to the tents. During COVID, they were used as classrooms, but they have not been used ever since. They're used as shade for the middle school students during lunchtime. These are located in the least portions of our campus, and it has no impact on the community, nor does it have any impact on enrollment numbers. The fourth one is the length of the CUP. This was discussed in the small group negotiating team. This is the result of our ask that the 2 administrative reviews be moved to the beginning of the 10-year period to ensure compliance of the CUP. And then the fifth one is around our enrollment cap is 325 students, as it has been since 2012. We have no intention to grow larger than that, as demonstrated by no additional requests in this process for any increase in enrollment. Regarding traffic, I think the one other thing just to note is that we turn right out of the driveway after drop off, and that is totally one way down to the exit, the egress of the neighborhood on Alpine. And Dr. Warren had shared all of those details in her presentation. I just close as the chair of the Woodland Board and one of the negotiators in the small group negotiating team that created the MOU. I can assure you that it was negotiated on good faith and that we will adhere to the terms that we have agreed upon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have anything to, Director, have anything to add?
Thank you, Chair Ketchum, and thanks to all the participants today. Really appreciate you sharing your perspectives on the matter and your efforts to work together to resolve the issues you're all dealing with. I guess the main point I want to make is with regard to concerns that the staff recommendation is somehow inconsistent with the MOU, because it is our intent for the conditions to be consistent with the parameters of the MOU as they relate to issues that are relevant to the planning and building department in this commission. And to that end, you know, this contingency about eliminating the parking for the so that and use of the field for parking instead. You know, I understand the Woodland Schools request in this regard, because in the event that the Planning Commission would not authorize the use of the field for parking, then they would be really limited in their ability to provide on-site parking. So I think it's appropriate for the conditions to acknowledge that for the school to eliminate that parking lot, they need to be given permission to park on the field. Then there was also a concern that the conditions did not limit the number of participants in the summer programs to 125, as I understand is provided in the MOU. And I wanted to point the commission to the last sentence of the additional changes that have been requested by the Woodland School, which makes that limit clear. And then, you know, I think the other matter regarding the conditions as they relate to the MOU has to do with the fence and fence openings. As the district said, you know, the design of the fence and where the openings are or are not will be a matter for the district to make a decision on. As it stands now, the conditions are silent, and so we have no objections to installing openings within the fence that are in accordance with the district's desire. I think all the other comments I had have been expressed by the district in their response, so I'll leave it at that and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just to see if county council may have any comments regarding some of the legalities, as far as if we have everything that we need to proceed. I think we do, but I would like an affirmation.
Yeah, the matter is correctly presented to you with the information that you can make a decision on. As you're aware, when it comes to use permits, the role of the Planning Commission is to determine how to allow things that are requested that aren't provided by the zoning and which require a use permit, and ensuring that the use can be conducted in a way that's consistent with the zoning regulations to the extent that is possible. So I believe the staff report presents those issues completely to you.
All right, thank you.
I'm taking that as deliberation as well. So I am in support of this project. I feel so honored to have seen teachers and academicians here who are going to be shaping the future of our children. And I think that is great. And I see passion in what they are doing. And I support the fence. And I think in today's day and environment, we need this fence to provide safety for our students and for the staff. So, and how you put the fence, that is for you to decide. I have whatever fence the two parties agree upon. I think that is a great idea to have a fence. Open campus is not the way to go these days, not in today's environment. So I am good with that. So so those are my comments. And like I said, I support what is in front of us.
May I just add what I think about this project? First of all, I would like to thank everyone involved that negotiated in good faith. Especially want to thank Mr. Topete for dealing with, bringing this forward and with all the things that you had to deal with on both sides. So at this point, I also want to say that I want to support the project. I think it's been difficult. It was interesting that this came a couple of times and then it disappeared from our docket. And, I was thinking, what could it be so difficult that they can just bring it forward? Well, now we understand why. So obviously not everyone is going to get what they want, but I think that at this point we have before us something that is that has been negotiated, and I think the MOU pretty much gives everybody a little bit of what they want. So we're not going to make everybody happy, but we have a job to do. So with that, I am in favor of the project.
Well, I too am in favor of what's before us today, and thank so much to staff for putting this together. It very challenging, and admiration for the community to really work on this and come up with a solution. So do we have a motion?
If I could just jump in for a second, because with regard to the motion, I want to make sure that it captures the additional language that's in the handout that you received. And with regard to that additional language, I hate to be nitpicky, but the last sentence of this, the first paragraph after the bullets, I think is a little awkward. Right now it reads meetings which would be limited to no more than 3 times per month. In my mind, it would be much clearer to say meetings shall be limited to no more than 3 per month. So it's just replace which would with shall.
Can I start with the motion and then we can add some of these things to it, please? Yeah, thank you. I move that the planning commission approve the use permit renewal amendment and fence height exception as per county file number PLN 2000-00352 by adopting the required findings and conditions of approval contained in attachment 8. And then go ahead and give me some of the language there.
Right, so staff is modifying the conditions of approval to incorporate the additional language submitted by the Woodland School. So we will be supplementing condition 1 with the following 2 sentences. Meetings shall be limited to no more than 3 times per month, and as long as parking is accommodated in the school parking lot. And this use permit also allows for summer camp programs which run in 1-week sessions. At no time will there be more than 125 participants in any 1-week camp session.
Okay, I approve that.
Second?
And I would just like to clarify the supplemental memo as well. It's not part of attachment A.
That is correct. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So with the supplement, no, the addendum be
MOU.
added. Yes. Go ahead. So that is the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Ramirez and a second by Commissioner Gupta. Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano Juan.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Chair Ketchum.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Chair, may I suggest a 5-minute break before we do the remainder of the agenda so
Yes.
Yeah.
folks can depart? Thank you.
Hey there. Yeah, you're better for.
resuming our meeting now. Is that, let's see, we, we close item 3 and we're moving on now to items 4 through 6 from the director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The commission did receive some correspondence. And it was following the tragic death of the son of the city of Half Moon Bay's mayor. He died in a motorcycle accident on Highway 1 near Miramar. And as a result of that, we received a number of letters urging us to move as quickly as possible with the Highway 1 improvements and roundabouts that we've been discussing for some time now. And I think the commissioners are aware that, you know, at least from planning and building, we are doing everything we can to move those improvements forward. It's difficult when you're dealing with the state highway system where the county's got limited jurisdiction and funding, but nevertheless, we're plugging away. And in the meantime, Caltrans does have certain projects that will be initiated more quickly than the improvements that we have laid out in Connect the Coast side. In particular, the Highway 1 rehabilitation project, which came before you and has been appealed to the board, does include the installation of improvements to the Miramar Highway 1 intersection where the accident occurred, including the installation of bike lanes. So that will make the road wider and hopefully safer. But we will continue to engage with Caltrans to try and get these improvements done as quickly as possible. Moving on to item 5, our next meeting will be on June 26th. We do not have a study session scheduled for that meeting, but we do have 3 items. 2 of them relate to the Moss Beach Coastside Fire Station 44 replacement. Station 44 is in Moss Beach, close to the Cypress Point Affordable Housing Project site. It's an aged facility that needs to be replaced, and so the commission will be considering the permits required to allow for that new station to be built. And while that new station is being built, Coastside Fire will need a temporary station to operate from. So the permits required for the temporary station, which is proposed adjacent to the Moss Beach Sheriff's Substation, that will also be before you. Finally, the third item will be the renewal of a use permit to continue operation of an existing wireless telecommunication facility and the legalization of a wireless telecommunication facility that was built without permits. Both of these facilities are on top of Montara Mountain. And I think the big issue there is access to these facilities for maintenance purposes and for fire protection purposes, because the existing road that's used to gain access to that facility is in poor shape. So those are the 3 items we have scheduled for the next meeting. I anticipate that there'll be a good degree of public interest in those. And so I would expect a similar duration meeting to what we had today. Moving on to the director's report, unless you have questions.
Do you have the PLN number for the Montara Mountain item? I think there were several things going on, but
Yes, I think Angela can pull that up while
okay, thanks.
I move on here. So for the director's report, wanted to let you know that yesterday the Board of Supervisors accepted a grant that we applied for and received from the Department of Water Resources. This is for for the county to develop a drought resilience plan and task force. And we felt like this opportunity would go hand in hand with our efforts to update the safety element, deal with the issues of drought, which we're bound to face again. So that's an exciting opportunity. And then as I've been doing at recent prior meetings, I want to provide an update on what's happening at Airport Street and the American Gas facility in Princeton. And there has been a dedicated effort by multiple departments within the county to try and get a handle on the problem of vehicles parking on Airport Street, particularly RVs that appear to be abandoned. We've been working closely with the sheriff's office and others. The sheriff's office was able to obtain a contract with a towing firm that is capable of removing RVs, which was one of the impediments we faced previously. And as I understand, at least 2 RVs that appeared to be abandoned have been removed from the site. We're also working closely with our human services agency to deal with vehicles that appear to be inhabited, people living in their vehicles, and we're seeking to find them alternative living situations so that they don't need to live in their vehicles and those vehicles can be removed from Airport Street. And there's more work to be done, but it is a priority for the county, and I hope that we'll continue to see improvement in that situation. A related issue to that is that some of the RVs along Airport Street had encroached onto the AmeriGas facility, AmeriGas being the location of the propane service that came to this commission for a permit to resolve a fence issue. We have been consistently reaching out, trying to get the representatives of AmeriGas to both deal with the removal and replacement of the fence as required under the permit that was approved by this commission, as well as to deal with the RVs that have encroached on the property. And the good news there is after weeks of trying, we did get through to their representative who indicated their willingness to and their intent to address the situations. My understanding is they'll be notifying the owners of the RVs that are on their driveway apron that they must vacate. And we will be working with them as necessary to ensure that that happens. And they've also indicated their intent to address the fence situation. I don't have a lot of details on that right now, but we are in active conversations with them and will continue to apply pressure as necessary to get this dealt with. Finally, there was a question. Well, not finally, I have one more update after this. There was a question last meeting about the status of the Moss Beach Chevron project. This was one of those situations where the gas station had made changes to the site without obtaining the necessary permits. They came back with a plan to address the changes that were made and to modify those changes to better respond to some of the issues at that location. We have been in touch with the owner of that property, and we've been informed that the implementation of the improvements as approved by this planning commission should be initiated within the next 2 weeks. So that's good news. And I hope that we will actually see that happening prior to the next planning commission meeting. And I'll be keeping an eye on that to make sure it moves forward in a timely way. The final thing I have to report is some of the commissioners might be familiar with a project in Miramar known as the Hodge Project. This was actually a controversial residential development that was approved by the county and subsequently the Coastal Commission on Appeal many years ago. And the controversy had to do with whether or not the site contained wetlands. The final decision that was issued by the Coastal Commission struck a balance between allowing the property owner to make a reasonable use of their property, but also requiring the protection of the remainder of the site for the wetland and resource values that it contained. Since that time, the Hodges have been intent on developing an accessory dwelling unit on the property. And they came to the county requesting permission to do so. We identified that, the commission had placed a restriction on the remainder of the property outside the home, and that before we could process any permits to build an accessory dwelling unit, they would need to get permission from the Coastal Commission to amend those restrictions. They've applied to the commission for such an amendment, and under the commission's regulations, the staff has the ability to reject an amendment request. That amendment request would weaken the intent of the initial decision. So the request to remove the protections on the remainder of this site was rejected by the commission staff, and the Hodges appealed that. And the Coastal Commission will be considering their appeal of that determination at their meeting tomorrow. So I thought the commissioners might be interested in tuning into that portion of the Coastal Commission hearing. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
So the Hodge ADU, as I was reading the material, whatever, they prefer a detached, which the Coastal Commission is not looking highly on. The alternative, I guess they'd ask the county to have an attached ADU. Can that get around? Are the ADU protections, would they allow this in a wetland?
No, you can't build an ADU in a wetland in the coastal.
Even attached.
So, yes, the Hodges did come to us with a revised proposal that rather than having a detached would be attached to the unit. And we felt obligated to run that alternative by the Coastal Commission staff as well, because the commission is the one who approved the underlying CDP and the restrictions on the remainder of the property. And the commission staff came to the same conclusion that they did for the detached ADU. And that is that the attached ADU would still encroach into areas that were protected by their permit and would require an amendment that they would reject.
So their decision tomorrow would encompass attached or detached, whatever.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I mean, the amendment before them was specifically for the detached, but based on the subsequent application to us and the correspondence that commission staff sent to the Hodges and copied the county on, I think the record is clear that it applies to both attached and detached.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And would the JADU not?
So yeah, a JADU generally is within the existing footprint, and I believe that if they were willing to give up existing square footage that they have for the purposes of creating a JADU, that would avoid a conflict with the protection of the surrounding land.
But they'd have to give up some of the square footage.
Well, they would have to repurpose it.
Well,
Yeah, that was just curiosity.
the Coastal Commission staff report noted that the space for the garage within the house has been converted to living quarters. Now, at this point, well, you could have looked at the floor plan and figured out how that was going to work. But anyhow, at this
If
point,
I mean, this is
Yeah.
part of the director's report and it's not on the agenda. It really isn't before the commission for discussion. If you need clarification, please talk to Steve separately so that we're not in a position where members of the public that might have something to say about the matter feel that this should have been
Thank
agendized for discussion.
thank you. Any other?
I had a question about the removal of the RVs.
Yes.
Does that in any way fall under homeless funding that has been approved by Board of Supervisors?
Indirectly, the funding of the towing of the RVs is not coming from the funds that have been allocated to assisting the homeless, but the outreach that is being done to the people who are living in vehicles along that area and the services that are being offered to them are being funded by the funding source that you mentioned.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if there's no other questions, we are adjourned.
Thank you.